Hello and welcome to GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max broadcast number 133, where we take a little bit of a sneak peek deep dive into what's going on into the GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max universes. And of course, anyone who's lucky enough to join us live in our live chat gets to ask some questions and I get to answer some of them, maybe even all of them. It depends how many there are. And the best way for me to find those questions, if you are posting and typing out on the live chat, stick a question mark at the end, that'd be great. Then I can start at the top, scroll through, find all the questions super quick and answer as many as I can. So that's basically the format. And before we get into the Q&A, a couple of little demos if we have any. So we've got a demonstration this week, so I can show you a little bit, this time in the GameGuru Classic land. You may have spotted a couple of commits in the GameGuru Classic repo. I'll just click to show you what I'm talking about. Anyone who's familiar with the Game Creators GameGuru repo and goes into the code tab, all you've got to do is click this one here, 671 commits. That's 671 attempts to make GameGuru Classic better. And the last few attempts have been achieved by T-Bone and Cybernescence. But I won't bore you with the details of the changelog, although, you know, if you're coder inclined, you might want to delve a little deeper into exactly what was changed. But here's something that I didn't prepare earlier, but Cybernescence did. So I'm just going to run this, and I think pictures speak louder than words, so I will go through that. Hopefully, we don't have crazy audio, so let's see what happens. Okay, you're probably going to guess, because if you tuned in last week's broadcast, or it might have been the week before, all I really had was sort of a teaser. But now, thanks to the fact that this is now in the beta and the public preview of the GameGuru Classic you have access to right now, then you can actually check this out for yourself and start playing with the features. And the features, if you remember, is being able to play a video onto a texture and changing the texture of an object dynamically. So we'll start with this one. Press E to start video 2.
GameGuru is your first step to creating your own 3D
and Alt
game.
can pause the video. I like this one. This big one. I'm going to press E, start video 3. Looks good, don't it? I'm not going to steal anyone else's thunder. This is a cool game, and I invite you to figure out first what it is, who did it, and then go play it. So this is the biggest video we've got. Press Alt to stop. I think this barrel, we've put a, I say we, Cybernescence put a fire animation on this. So press E to start video 4. That's an actual video, I think it's an MP4 video on a loop, being played as a texture on this lovely barrel. Press Alt to stop, and I think if we go over here, you'll actually see that original texture reapplied, alternative texture applied, original texture reapplied. And this is actually live. If I show you, if I just come out of here a second and just, oops, and zip about, there's my starting marker. You'll see this is a level called Video Texture Demo.fpm. So if you check out the latest beta of GameGuru Classic, you'll see that FPM there. There's some supporting media and some objects which are included in this demo, so you can actually run around, click on the objects, see how they do their magic, and then if you want, you can recreate it for your own game designs. And you are more than welcome to do so. And I hope that everyone in the community thanks Cybernescence and T-Bone for their continuing efforts to improve GameGuru Classics. Really great to be able to demonstrate progress in GameGuru Classic land. So that's what I want to reveal. So if you don't already, I mean, it was pretty much like just earlier today. So no surprise really if you didn't know about all this stuff. But certainly go check it out in the beta and the public preview of GameGuru Classic, if you're interested in this sort of thing. But for us, we are going to stray or wander or meander even into the next segment, which of course is GameGuru Max. Okay, so GameGuru Max, what do we have to talk about in GameGuru Max land? bug fixes mainly. I'm not going to do a demonstration of RPG inventory progress. What I want to do is sort of clean up the art. Because I've made a couple of videos. I did a broadcast. I think I've done 2 broadcasts now featuring some of the RPG stuff. And I've done an end of month video, which you might see on a YouTube channel right now. If you go check it out, maybe after this broadcast, you'll see that. But it's sort of like using RPG scratch graphics, and you can get away with it for a while as developer, programmer art, but you can't really get away with it for sort of the final reveal of us moving closer to version 1 of GameGuru Max. So we're going to have a little bit of a breather. But what I can announce, which I think is pretty cool, is we have taken the bug count down considerably. Remember ages ago I said we're going to split our time between obviously finishing off the features we've promised, but also hitting the bug base hard, start getting those issues down. Well, from a month ago we had 475 confirmed max bugs and 146 of those were high. We've now dropped that from 475 to 402. So quite a considerable bite. Now, to be fair, full disclosure, not all of them were bug fixes. Some of them were issues that were so old they were fixed ages ago. And but still, the process of cleaning up the issues board is important. And perhaps more telling is the 146 drop to 135 high bugs. Those are the ones that pretty much everyone agree absolutely need fixing ASAP. And so we're actually certain to see a reduction in those bug numbers. It's not like that's all we did. You know, if you think about a month, during that month, new issues have been submitted all the time. In fact, so we're actually going against the waves, going against the tide, and we're swimming upstream and we're making progress. So I just wanted to report that. And next week, yes, I'll go back to some nice eye candy. But also, if there's sort of like you'd like to see some of these bug fixes and exactly what's happened, instead of going off to the issues board and just browsing through all the recently fixed, if you want to see it demonstrated live, do let me know. Quite happy to go through some of the more prominent fixes, some real juicy ones that have been done already and should help your productivity no end. And the last thing I want to talk about with GameGuru Max before we move on to the Q&A is new DLC. We've had someone approach us, not graphics this time, but sound effects, asking, you know, are you interested in lots of unique, you know, audio and sound you've never heard before, completely created from scratch, for one of your future GameGuru Max DLC? And we said, yeah, sure. So that was worked on, and finally we got to the point where we tested it and was really happy with it. And I'm not going to show it now. You can't really show an audio pack, you can't really play the audio of it. I'm going to keep that powder dry because we've not released it yet. I think we'll release it and then maybe I'll show you some of the highlights in a near future broadcast. All I'm going to say for now is keep your eye out in the socials and the news feeds for the imminent announcement of a new GameGuru Max DLC and a long-awaited addition to your music, your ambience effects, your regular sound effects across a number of themes. It's quite a big pack. I think you'll enjoy it. And of course, as always with our DLC, X represents enormous value. So that's it for GameGuru Classic and Max. I have allowed a little bit more time this time round for Q&As. I'm sure you've got lots of questions. And somewhere around here, I have a live chat box I can drag into the screen. So without further ado, let's enter Q&A. Right, found my chat window. I'm going to drag it in. We'll set it nicely here and scroll to the top. Looks like there's not a bombardment of questions at the moment, which is great. We don't often get to answer every single question in the live chats, usually because the questions start to accelerate in the last 10 minutes, which of course means it's impossible to either end the broadcast or answer all the questions. So let's start at the top, look for the first question mark. Greetings everyone, happy days, happy days. The first question is from Coop, super confident man. How is the robot and who is the woman that likes chocolate? I'm ignoring that question simply because I have absolutely no idea what the context is. Pretty sure it's got nothing to do with what I was just talking about. This is like a serious question, capitals. This is from Lucas. Will there be a way to make a scripted change of skybox and lighting fog ETT inside a level via Lua or similar means? So let's dissect that question a little bit. So you want script control of skybox lightings and fog. You can have scripting control of lighting. That's entirely something you can do. I think there is commands for fog control, fog depth, fog color, fog thickness, whether it's on or off, so you have those commands. Control of skybox, not sure. I think there's control of clouds, so the simulated skybox. But technically, if it's simulatedly, it ain't a skybox. So I suppose what you're asking is there a script command for changing the skybox from one to the other. Not in our plans until we get to version 1. The skybox you pick per level is the skybox you're kind of stuck with. But like I said, with a bit of jiggery-pokery with fog commands, you can actually get that skybox to effectively disappear. And I do think you have more controls on the simulated sky, which I think most people will probably want to go to because you get a much better cloud effect if it is indeed a sky with clouds that you want. 3Com says, nice one, Cyber. I concur 110%. Looking for a question, scrolly. Found one. This is from Checkpoint Xander. When does the inventory update for Macs come out? It will come out along with the rest of the RPG bits and bobs. We always release EXP builds, so that's builds you'll find on GameGuru Max's beta tab. Look for the experimental branch, select that. We update that pretty regular, and if you get that, there's a good chance to be able to get a sneak peek of some of the inventory. But if the question is, when are you going to finish farting around with it and have it ready for us mere mortals to play with, it will be coming as part of the whole RPG package. So that's inventory, crafting, player skills, maps, and making sure all the gadgets are there that interoperate between all those screens. And then, of course, the front end gets some nicer template graphics, and then the back end gets rigorously tested for a couple of different RPG game genre styles. And then we release it. The good news is we're not going to kind of keep that back whilst we work on VR. We're going to get that one finished off to a point where we can put it into your hands, and then we go off and we do the last pillar before we release version 1, which is a VR. So yeah, it's the thing we're working on now, and it's the thing we're going to release the soonest. So inventory along with all the other stuff. So yeah, you'll still have to wait a bit longer. There is no ETA on it, but it is the one we're working on, and we're working fast through it, and hopefully we can get it into your hands without you having to wait too much longer. Checkpoint Xander also asks, is there a plan for multiplayer for Macs in the future? Yeah, we tagged in the future. Certainly we're not doing anything for version 1, so I think we've made that pretty clear across the broadcasts, and we do have the Photon technology already built into the code of the game's engine. But I do think after we get to version 1, there'll be a lot of other things that may take priority over doing a full multiplayer implementation. And I say that very specifically, a full multiplayer implementation. If we did a half-baked one, no one's going to thank us for that. In fact, we'll probably get more criticism for doing a half-baked multiplayer than no multiplayer. And of course, that's going to be the question. If we're going to get that kind of flack for even starting multiplayer, is there something else that everybody wants rather than a minority within the community? So we're going to ask those very, very serious and important questions once we get to version 1 and we leave early access. Here's a question from Jonathan. I have a set of FPX files to put into GGM, GameGuru Max, 57 to be exact. I don't want to have to export them one by one with the import option for GameGuru Max. Would it be my solution to go faster? Yeah. There currently isn't a batch import, and that would be the greatest solution, would it not? You get your model importer, you don't specify one file, you specify a folder, or asterisks, and just say, give me them all, and it just. But then, of course, you got to have a standardized. Everything's going to be imported and converted to the same properties, which might be if you want. If it's 57 pieces of wall, then that's a perfectly acceptable batch process. But that's not currently on the charts for a version 1 implementation to improve the model importer. If I was doing it, I'd probably find another batch converter that converts my FBXs into the X files that we used to use. Then use our converter, which is available in GameGuru Max, to convert the X files to DBOs. And then when I have a folder full of DBOs and do some similar batch processing for textures and FPEs and have my 57 models all ready to test in GameGuru Max. If you don't know what any of that meant, it's probably best you not touch it. But if anyone else in the community wants to help you and elucidate and what I've been blurting on about, then go check that out, because there are solutions. They're just not out of the box within the GameGuru Max software interface. Here's a question from Lucas. Question number 2. The pain. Are there plans for third person and other camera views? There are no plans for version 1 to add third person perspective. But I've said it in previous broadcasts, I don't think they'll be waiting that long for TGC to bring it out. I think the community will have third person in place and camera views in place before we have some official announcements about doing third person. And again, the reason is it's about focusing on what we've got and making that good. So right now we have first person perspective, and I think we all agree it's not finished. You know, we've got to shoot off onto multiplayer and third person before we finish first person. So let's finish first person. I think that's the best strategy for a quality, stable game maker. Question from Darth Pickles 666. Is there going to be any tutorials or guides for adding projectile weapons before version 1 releases? Projectile weapons as in rocket launcher. We have a grenade, but you might think that doesn't count as a projectile. Something you just lob. And I don't think there is any plans. I don't think we've got a weapon in the works, which is like a rocket launcher and RPG. Yeah, so I probably don't think we're going to have something for version 1. If there is a chance that somehow an artist can creep along and says, hey, what about this? You forgot about this, and it's a projectile weapon, then that makes sense to write a guide about it, and because we'll be working on that, those extra bits in the new weapon system to get that up and running, and that's the perfect time to do the guide. But I don't think we'd stop what we're doing to do a guide on a projectile that doesn't actually exist in version 1. So that's kind of the order in which we'll be doing it. But off the top of my head, I can't remember if we've got a rocket launcher set for version 1. Who knows? I might be wrong. Okay, only with bots. Question. Do you think V1 of GameGuru Max will be included with DX12 support? So far, the engine looks seriously gorgeous, so I can imagine it would crank up even more. There's no plans to go to DX12 before we get to version 1. We're going to release version 1 under the latest stable version of DX11. It's the one that just ticks all the boxes for stability, and the graphics aren't that bad. Will DX12 improve the graphical quality? Not necessarily. We're looking for DX12 in order to get some performance and some more visual effects. Things like better weather and post-process effects and the things like of that ilk. That's kind of what we're going to look at in terms of DX12, but that will be after version 1. So yeah, if you're holding out for a DX12 version, I think we have a branch somewhere that has a last DX12 version. You can check that out if you like. But when we actually did the conversion up to a point with DX12, there wasn't a significant performance improvement. So even when we do have DX12, we're still going to have to go in and do more performance work to squeeze every little ounce out of DX12. DX12 is an automatic performance improvement. You basically have to work for it, because DX12 you're writing a lot more of the lower level code yourself. Okay, repetitive question from Hustle or Nothing. But can Maximo characters and rigs be imported into the engine? I've seen community members who've done it. It's not straightforward, and it certainly isn't an out-of-the-box feature with the current GameGuru Max model importer. But I have seen the pipeline of getting the Mixamo FBX, converting it to a GLTF with an appropriate rig. It won't rig directly to the character creator rig that we have built into Max, but there are characters are running around in a GameGuru Max level, so it is possible, but it's a bit of a community dark art right now. We do have some guides on importing characters, but they focus more on Blender. So if you can fold Blender into the pipeline, starting with Mixamo, then you're probably off to a good start of figuring out yourself. Okay, Retro Gameblow asks, could you improve the sprite handling in Max? So the edges of sprites are not glitchy from the auto smoothing stuff. GameGuru is a lot better for this, and AGK has the option for both. Yeah, when you mean sprites, I presume you mean the 2D stuff that you render through Lua scripting. So you can actually render render some text and some images on the screen, and perhaps the anti-aliasing or the whether you actually sample the pixel at the right point. You know, UV versus pixels, texel versus pixels. I mean, so that's getting a bit techie and deep. I'm sure there is an issue that you've identified. I think you might have to go into some more detail in a separate email just to point out exactly what it is, and then I'll probably give you a much quicker answer then once I see the tech behind the question. But yeah, it might even be like a 0.5 added to a shader, or it might be a whole new technique we need to invent. I don't think it is, though. I think we're doing all kinds of sprite rendering these days. Shouldn't be too much of an issue to solve your issue. Is it always a question from ATMS Film? Is it possible that hit animation, blood, etc., can be added? I think you get too little feedback as a player. For example, when you score, ragdoll effects, head would also be good. There already is hit damage HUD effects by default in GameGuru Max, so just drop a lot of soldiers down and give yourself lots of health and run into the middle of them. See lots of your blood splatting all over the screen, so you should already be able to see that. If you want more blood, I'm sure there's some tweaks you can make inside there if you dab hand with a few packages and scripting commands. There are no plans to expand the ragdoll system right now. The ragdoll's pretty basic. There are some reactions that characters do, at least the Character Creator Max characters, but they're more based on animation cues. We find that when you just arbitrarily pull and push a ragdoll, right in the middle of that character actually trying to do a decent animation that an artist has created, it doesn't blend all that well. It's definitely possible. It's a very cool technique, but we don't have that system in place right now. Be great to have it after version 1 though. Another question from Darth Pickle 666. Will there being an option to add a new screens to the HUD? Sure. Is there plans to have an option to allow us to add new screens to the menus? Like for game mode, survival, etc. Absolutely. In fact, after this broadcast, if you check out the end of month video that we released earlier today, you'll see the answer to that question. You can create as many HUD screens as you want and have your game full of them, and you can use them for wherever you want. Our job will be to create the building block gadgets that let you have clever screens that do lots of things for your game, whether it's in the game or whether it's a menu before the game starts, or maybe a little 2D interlude between some 3D action. It'll be entirely up to you. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people do with that. It'll do a lot more than I can imagine right now. Okay, Synchro62 answers the question for me. Thank you very much. Sorry, Sync. I thought it was a question. Nightfall X asks, Nightfall X asks, did you answer my question from last week because you got it wrong? If you're asking that now, I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be no. I think you do have a little bit of time to ask it again, which might have been a better use of word count. So please ask it again quick before I end this broadcast, dude. Right, question marks. We have to fly all the way down to nearly the bottom from Nomad Soul. Question: are you using an RTX 4090 graphics card? Oh, I wish. Oh, I wish. No, I'm using an aging 5-year-old AMD RT 580. In fact, I think someone in this chat gave me the graphics card to test an AMD bug that was happening in DX12. So it could be someone in this chat right now knows the exact model of my AMD graphics card, but I think it ends in 280, which basically means it's not a fast card. It's certainly nowhere near a 4090. So perhaps your question is, how can you have such a fast experience? Well, if you've not tuned in for a while, GameGuru Max I've not demonstrated. What I demonstrated today was GameGuru Classic, and that runs quite well with a 5-year-old AMD card. So we've actually hit the bottom of the live chat. I'm just checking the time now. We're 24 minutes in. Always great if you can get your broadcast under 30 minutes. One of the many golden rules of YouTube is don't bore your audience to death for 2.5 hours of witter. But I am around in case Nightfall X wants to ask me that question. I just want him to see the question. So do I. Okay, I'll read back up until there's a new question, Matt. I'll scroll back up. I don't normally do this, but quite rarely I have the time just to scroll through all the chats that don't have question marks, because there might be a question in there that doesn't have a question mark on the end. Retro proposes, but he won't remember your question. No, he can't guarantee. Yes, Lee's old. Lee's brain is made of cheese these days, so not being able to... Right, yes, it was Synchro who gifted me the AMD card. Now, Synchro, can you remember what the actual card was? It might give people a little glimpse into one of the tricks that long-in-the-tooth developers use, which is we don't use the highest-end graphics cards when we're developing software. We keep it real. We pick a card that most of the users will have, so that when we do our performance tuning and improvements, when we have it nice and fast on our machine, it pretty much means that it's going to run nice and fast on over 50% of anyone you're going to give your game/product to. It's good practice. I mean, sure, some people will argue, I need the best equipment to do the best code. But when you're actually developing it and you're testing it and developing it and you're releasing all different builds, you want to be sort of testing most scenarios. And the best way to do that is test it as you're writing it. And if it's slow or it goes wrong, you're already there to fix it and make it faster. Okay, we have a question. Thanks, Tom. Saved me there from just wittering on. Will the many AI bugs be fixed and lots of improvements be added prior to version 1? Yeah, I imagine there are a lot of AI bug reports in the issues board. Remember the 402 remaining open GameGuru Classic bugs? Off the top of my head, I'd reckon about 40 of them are AI related, and probably over 10 are in the high column. If there's anything specific, Tom, that you think isn't being attended to, and it isn't in the high priority, please let a moderator, or if you've got access to the issues board capability, to set it as high. Just to point it out, to say, look, yes, there's lots, but these are the important AI bugs. Because AI can mean different things to different people, and AI could mean how a character behaves in combat, or AI could be how they behave in conversation and their logic, how they work into the overall gameplay. But clarity would be great. And another question. This is from Dude from 1972. 2 years off me. Where can I submit a new idea for a feature? Same place as the issues board. It's quite a big place. 402 were the bugs. If we switched off the bug label and looked at all issues, it probably goes to more like 1,000. That's why for every 400 bugs, there's 600 feature requests. A lot of the feature requests overlap, and a lot of them will collapse into a single effort. So a single feature set could take 50, 60 feature issues all in one go and everyone be happy. But we use the issues board for both things. We use it to collect bug reports, assign them to an individual, set the priority, what category they're on, and whether they're a bug or whether they're an enhancement and feature or a feature creep idea. In which case, we use the issues board to record those so we don't lose those cool ideas. So just go to the issues board. You'll see it in the background, GameGuru repo. Click on the issues tab and you can click new issue. And away you go. Okay, last question it looks like, because we just hit the 29-minute mark. And this is from Only With Butts. Do you also feel it was a great move to choose the Wicked engine for Macs? And if so, what are your plans in improving on in the future? If you can talk about it. Yeah, I think so. I think Wicked Engine's a great technology. It's very well written, very performant, doesn't waste any cycles doing what it needs to do, and it has a lot more features than GameGuru Max presently has. So it's like kid in a candy store when we eventually go back to the latest version of Wicked Engine and pick off the next 10 cool features that can be added to the games engine. So I think it was a great idea. It basically means someone else is using their talents to do the graphics engine stuff, whilst the TGC internal team focuses on the game engine, which, believe it or not, can be a different thing. You can have a games engine sitting on one side and then the graphics engine sitting on the other side. And division of labour is always a good idea as your team gets larger. Okay, another question. Go on, Retro, I'll answer it. Will the AI be improved a little for version 1? Yes, AI will be improved a lot. Any of the AI issues in the high priority bug fixing column, you can say goodbye to those. Those will be fixed. And also any AI that relates to RPG, any AI that relates to improving some melee combat and finishing off the new weapon system. So yeah, we've not stopped on AI. We just wanted to get all the RPG mechanics, the front and back ends in. Because if you think about it, RPG, it's a lot about picking up that big heavy sword and going running after that monster and clobbering it over the head. You're going to need a lot of AI to make that realistic. So yeah, don't despair, more AI is on the way. And I must end it there. We're at 30 minutes in. Thanks for your questions. Obviously, you've still got more questions. We'll be here again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT. Thanks for all your attentions. I look forward to bringing you some more RPG-related goodies next week and anything else that may happen in GameGuru Classic Land. But until then, thanks very much for your kind attention, and I'll speak to you all next week. So until then, goodbye.